The forest was dark and deep. The trees were tall and strange, their leaves glowing faintly in the moonlight. The air was cold and still, no wind, no sound, only silence. But something moved between the trees, slow, weak, and afraid. A woman. Walked carefully, her legs were shaking. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes glowed soft green in the dark. She was not human. She was not from Earth. She was an alien. In her arms, she carried a small child. The child was wrapped in cloth, thin and dirty. The baby didn't cry. He only stared at the stars through the leaves like he was waiting for someone. Or something. They had been alone for many days. Their spaceship had crashed in this wild forest. She had no food left, no water. Her communicator was broken. Her kind, her people, had not answered her signals. Maybe they never got the message. Maybe they had given up. Now, she was only trying to survive. Every night, strange sounds came from the woods. Roars, growls, whispers. She didn't know if they were animals or something worse. She didn't sleep. She only walked, hiding during the day, moving at night. Something felt different. The forest was too quiet. She stopped and looked around. The trees seemed to lean in closer. Her ears twitched. She heard it, a small snap. A branch had broken behind her. Her heart raced. She stepped back, hugging the child tight. Then a sound she feared the most. A footstep. Not an animal, not a machine, but someone, walking. She turned quickly and ran, but her legs were weak. She tripped and fell to the ground, shielding the child from the impact. She winced in pain but didn't cry out. She held her breath. In the distance, someone moved. A tall figure walked slowly through the trees. He was dressed in dark green and brown. A hood covered most of his face. He held a rifle in one hand and a bag on his back. A human. She gasped softly and tried to crawl back. She had heard about humans. Dangerous, violent, cruel. They killed for fun. Took what they wanted. But the man did not shoot. He stood there, looking at her. His face was calm but serious. He saw the alien woman on the ground, holding the child. He didn't move for a moment. Then slowly, he raised his free hand, not to attack, but to show peace. She didn't understand the gesture. She held the child tighter and backed away into a tree. Her eyes were wide, full of fear. The man noticed. He carefully placed his gun on the ground and knelt down. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. But she didn't understand his words. He took something from his bag, a water bottle. He opened it and placed it on the ground between them. Then, he took out a small food bar, unwrapped it, and placed it beside the bottle. He pointed to them, then gently pushed them toward her. She looked at the bottle, then at him. Her lips were dry, her throat burned. The child stirred in her arms. Slowly, with shaking hands, she reached out and grabbed the bottle. She drank. Not much, just enough to feel alive again. The man smiled faintly. A gust of wind passed through the trees, and with it, a strange clicking sound. The man's smile faded. He stood up quickly, picked up his rifle, and looked around. The woman's eyes widened. She knew that sound, not animals. Not humans. Hunters. She whispered something in her language. The child began to cry, the first sound he made in days. The man moved beside them. "We need to move," he said, looking around with sharp eyes. He couldn't understand her words, but he understood fear. Something was out there. He pointed to a path through the trees. He looked at her and made a motion. "Come with me." She hesitated. Could she trust him? But then, a sharp sound. A bullet hit the tree near her head. Bark flew in the air. Someone had fired a gun. The hunter didn't wait. He grabbed her arm gently and pulled. She didn't fight. She stood up, holding her child close. Together, they ran through the forest, their footsteps soft on the moss. Behind them, more shots. Shadows moved through the trees. The hunt had begun, but now she was no longer alone. Asterisk it started with silence. Then came the scream, not a loud scream. Just a child's voice, full of fear. The sound cut through the cold forest like a knife. Birds flew from the trees. The wind stopped moving. The human hunter heard it. He had been tracking something else. A wild beast, but now that scream made him freeze. He stood still, rifle tight in hand, boots buried in the wet moss. He looked toward the sound, heart steady but alert. No animal makes that sound, he thought. He moved quickly and quietly, like a shadow among the trees. She was on the ground again. The alien woman's legs had given up. Her skin was scraped her arms trembling. She clutched the crying child tightly, her back against a thick tree trunk. One arm shielded the child. The other held a sharp stone, her only weapon. She didn't know if she could use it. Then she saw him again. The human stepped into the open, slowly, calmly, not like a soldier, not like a killer, but like a man used to danger. His rifle was pointed down. His eyes were sharp, but not angry. He stopped just 10 steps away. Not too close, not too far, just enough to speak. Without words, the woman raised the stone. Her hand shook. The child whimpered, his small glowing eyes staring up at the stranger. The hunter knelt slowly. He placed his rifle on the ground. No tricks, no sudden moves. Then, he did something strange. Something that made the woman pause. He took off his glove and stretched out his hand, open, empty, fingers up, palm out. It was a sign older than words. She didn't understand his language. But this, she understood. She lowered the stone, just a little. The man spoke, his voice low and careful. "I heard you scream," he said. "You're not safe here." She didn't reply. She didn't understand. But she could feel something. In his voice, not anger, not greed, but concern. The hunter reached into his coat, slowly. The woman flinched, ready to run, but he only pulled out a small packet. Food. He opened it and placed it gently on the ground. Then a bottle of clean water. He pushed them forward. No words now. Just actions. The woman stared. Then slowly, she crawled forward and took the water. She drank, just a few sips. Then she gave it to the child. The child smiled. Just for a moment, that moment changed something. The hunter saw it. This wasn't some monster from the stars. This was a mother. Scared, tired, lost, just trying to protect her child. No different than any human would. He looked at her communicator, a broken device hanging around her neck. Sparks flickered from it. He pointed at it. "Can I see it?" She hesitated, then nodded. He examined it carefully. Alien tech, but not too different from the old world tech he had repaired before. Maybe he could fix it. Maybe. He gave it back. She watched him now, not with fear, but curiosity. Suddenly, click, a strange sound echoed through the trees. The woman stood up fast. She looked around with wild eyes. She grabbed her child and pointed into the forest. The hunter heard it too. Something was moving nearby. Something big, and not alone. The hunter picked up his rifle. He made a fast decision. He pointed to himself, then to her and the child, then toward a cave nearby, half hidden by roots and vines. "Come," he said firmly. "We're not safe." She didn't know the words, but she knew the truth. Together, they ran behind them. The forest grew darker. A glowing red light flickered between the trees, not natural. Not fire, something mechanical. Someone was hunting. And now, two very different beings, a human and an alien, were running side by side. Not friends, not enemies, just two survivors. Smoke curled in the cold air. A small fire burned between two strangers, one human, one alien. Neither spoke. Both listened. Not to each other, but to the silence. The cave was small and dry. Hidden behind thick roots and rocks, it was safe. For now. Outside, the forest was alive with quiet threats. But inside, there was only stillness. The human hunter sat near the fire. His gun rested against the wall. He didn't reach for it. He didn't need to. The alien woman sat across from him, her child sleeping in her arms, wrapped tightly in a torn blanket. Her eyes glowing faintly green. Never left the man. She didn't speak. He didn't speak. But something was happening between them. Something without words. Time passed slowly. The hunter pulled out food from his pack. Just dried meat and soft bread. He placed a piece near her, careful not to make sudden moves. She looked at it, then at him, then at the child. She didn't touch. Not yet. He didn't force her. He simply ate his own portion, calmly, like she wasn't even there. He knew trust wasn't given. It had to grow. Like fire from a spark. Later that night, the child coughed in his sleep. The woman quickly touched his forehead. Her hands were shaking. He was cold. Too cold. The hunter noticed. He didn't say anything. Just took off his thick coat, walked slowly over and laid it near her. She froze. He didn't wait. He walked back to his side and sat down again. After a few long moments, she pulled the coat over her child. For the first time, she whispered something. Not to the man, to the child. A soft lullaby in an alien language. The hunter listened. Even though he didn't understand the words, the sadness in her voice cut deep. Morning came with fog and frost. The hunter stepped outside, rifle in hand. He checked the forest. No red lights. No sounds of machines. Safe. For now, when he returned, the woman was awake. The child was still sleeping, but she looked more alive than before. She pointed at the fire, then at the broken communicator around her neck. Sparks still blinked from it. Her eyes asked the question, "Can you fix it?" He took it, studied it carefully. The device was foreign, but not impossible. Its core was damaged, but some circuits were still good. He nodded once. "I'll try." They sat again, together this time. The hunter drew pictures in the dirt. Stars, ships, fire, food. He pointed to each and gave her the word in English. Ship. Cold. Danger. Safe. She didn't repeat them, but she watched closely. Then she took a stick and drew a circle, a broken planet. A line crossed through it. She pointed to herself. Her planet? Gone? He understood. He pointed to himself. Earth. She tilted her head, thinking. Then she said her first human word. Earth. That small word changed everything. From that point, the silence wasn't empty. It was full of meaning. She started copying words. He showed her how to use the food packs. She showed him how her tech lit up with a pulse. Slowly they started understanding each other, not fully, but enough to survive. At night, the child played with the hunter's glove. He giggled when the hunter made shadow animals on the cave wall. The mother watched, quiet, but her lips curved, just a little, a smile, her first. But peace never lasts. That night, as they rested, a distant sound returned. A high-pitched pulse, not natural, not wind, not animal. The woman's face went pale. She whispered one word in her language. The hunter didn't know it, but he understood. They were being tracked. Again. He grabbed his gun. She wrapped the child. Their eyes met. Not strangers anymore. Now, something stronger connected them. Not trust, not yet, but something close, survival. Together. They weren't running anymore. Now they were being hunted. And this time, the forest was holding its breath. The trees no longer whispered. They watched. Even the birds had vanished. No rustling. No animal cries. Just stillness. A stillness that felt too perfect. The human hunter knew that feeling. It was the silence before an ambush. A pause before death. He tightened the strap on. His rifle. Beside him, the alien woman held her child close to her chest. She could feel it too, a sharp pressure in the air, like invisible eyes watching from every direction. She had felt this before. Long ago, when they first came for her. Flashback. The woman's homeworld, once green and bright, had burned. Under metal skies. She had escaped with her child, leaving everything behind, her family, her people, her life. They weren't just hunting her. They were hunting what she carried, something special. Something the child had been born with. A power hidden deep inside, not yet awakened. And now, they had found her again. The hunter noticed a blinking red light on the ground. He crouched, touched it gently. It was a sensor, not his alien tech. Still warm. They're close, he whispered. She didn't understand his words. But his eyes said enough. They moved fast and quiet through the trees. Every step was measured, every branch avoided. Behind them, the wind carried a strange sound, clicks, metallic. Inhuman. Then, a voice, cold, robotic, speaking her name. Subject 21F, you have 30 seconds. Surrender the child. The woman froze, her breath caught in her throat. She had heard that voice before, many times. In nightmares, she turned to the hunter and whispered something. One word, run. But the hunter shook his head. Not this time. They reached a rocky cliff. Below was a drop to 20 meters. No way down with a child. The hunter scanned the area. Fast. He spotted something, a fallen tree, thick and hollow. Not perfect, but it could hide them for a while. He motioned her inside. She crawled in with the child. The hunter stayed outside, half hidden behind rocks, rifle ready. The forest was quiet again. Too quiet. Then movement, fast, blurred. Figures stepped into view. Tall, armored, alien. Not soldiers. Not machines. Bounty hunters. Their faces were hidden behind metal masks. Their suits glowed faint red in the dark. One carried a scanner, another a pulse weapon. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They were here for one thing. The child. The hunter waited. Waited. Then, click. He squeezed the trigger. A blast echoed through the forest. One bounty hunter fell. Another one turned and fired. Blue energy ripped through the trees, cutting branches like butter. The hunter ducked, rolled, fired again. Hit. Miss, hit. The fight was quick and violent. The woman covered her child's ears. Her body shook, but her eyes were sharp. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She was a survivor, and survivors don't scream. Outside, the hunter was bleeding. A cut on his arm. Smoke in his lungs. But he didn't stop. He fought like someone with nothing left to lose, or something to protect. Then, silence again. The hunter walked back to the hollow tree, breathing hard. Scratched, burned, but alive. He looked at her. All clear, he said, even though she didn't understand. But she did. She stepped out. The child reached for him, small fingers touching his glove. Then something strange happened. The child's hand glowed. Soft blue light, like a pulse. The hunter stared. What the? The child touched the hunter's wound. The cut, slowly, began to close. The woman watched him. Calm. She placed her hand on the child's head and said something soft in her tongue. The hunter understood. None of it, and all of it. This child was more than a survivor. He was changing. He was the reason. They were hunted, and maybe the reason they could win. His hand was still warm. The hunter sat against a tree, eyes wide, staring at his arm. Where there was blood before, now there was only skin, smooth, healed. The child had done it. With just a touch, the hunter looked at the woman. She didn't look shocked. She didn't look surprised. She only nodded. Like she had known all along. The forest was waking again. Birds chirped. Leaves rustled. But the air still held danger. One of the enemy hunters had escaped. He had sent a signal. And more were coming. Why are they after him? The hunter asked, pointing to the child. The woman didn't answer. But her face said everything. She touched the child's chest and drew a glowing symbol with her finger. Soft blue light. The child wasn't just rare. He was forbidden's, born with a power no one could control. A healer. A light bringer. To her people, that meant hope. 2. The bounty lords, it meant threat, and threats must be hunted. The hunter stood. He looked at the woman, then at the child, then toward the smoke rising from the north. He had a decision to make: walk away, like he always did, or stand and fight for something that wasn't his, but maybe should be. He loaded his rifle, took a breath, then said 2 words: let's fight. They moved fast through the woods. The woman showed him a hidden path, old and overgrown. At the end of it, a buried escape pod, broken but not useless. The hunter opened its panel. Sparks flew. She's got a reactor cell, he muttered. Could still power a shield grid, maybe weapons. He looked at the woman. She was already working. Her hands danced over alien circuits. She wasn't just a mother, she was a pilot. A survivor. A fighter. Together, they started fixing it. Night came fast. The child sat quietly inside the pod, drawing light patterns in the air with his fingers, strange glowing lines that floated like soft threads. The hunter watched. I don't know what you are, kid, he whispered, but you're not normal. The woman smiled for the first time, a real smile. Then suddenly, boom! The ground shook. Red lights lit up the forest floor. A ship was landing. Not theirs. The enemy was here. 5. Bounty hunters this time, bigger, smarter, heavily armed. They didn't speak. They didn't warn. They attacked. The hunter took position in the trees. The woman stayed with the child, inside the pod, activating a weak energy shield. The enemy spread out, one by one. They disappeared into the dark. The hunter's trap was working. He had rigged vines with noise bombs, planted small explosives near logs. The forest was his home now, and he knew how to make it scream. Bang! One hunter down. Crack. Another fell into a pit, but one of them reached the pod. He pointed his blaster at the child. The woman stepped in front, her arms wide. He didn't hesitate. He fired, but the bolt never landed. The child raised his hand, and the beam of light froze in the air. It shimmered, twisted, and turned to dust. The hunter, still running toward them, stopped in his tracks. What the hell? The woman looked at her son, shocked this time. Even she had never seen that. The last hunter tried to escape, but the child stepped out of the pod, walked into the clearing, and simply raised his small hand. Vines grew from the earth, wrapping around the enemy like snakes, holding him still. No violence, no scream. Just stillness. The hunter walked up to the trapped enemy. He looked him in the eye. Tell your masters, he said coldly, Earth is no longer open. Then he knocked him out. Later, the 3 sat beside the fire again, not as strangers, not even as survivors. Now, as a team. The hunter looked at the child. He wasn't afraid of him anymore. He was afraid of the people chasing him, and deep in the stars, those people had just received the bounty hunter's last message. Target, escaped. Resistance, human. Status, evolving. Asterisk. From the mouth of the cave, the hunter watched the night sky. Dozens of glowing streaks cut across the clouds, not natural, not random. Dropships, silent, purposeful. They weren't scanning anymore. They were closing in. Behind him, the alien woman worked on the escape pod. Wires sparked. Small tools in her hands glowed softly, dancing over broken circuits. And inside the pod, the child was no longer sleeping. He sat still, cross-legged, his hands resting on his knees. His eyes were open, glowing brighter than before, but not blinking. He wasn't sick. He wasn't tired. He was changing. The woman whispered softly in her language. She wasn't afraid of him, but she was afraid for him. The hunter walked in and crouched beside her. Will it fly? She shook her head. Half engine, broken nav, but maybe shield. Maybe call. He nodded. That was enough. Flashback, Hunter's memory, a younger version of himself, walking through the ruins of a burned city, holding nothing, believing in nothing. A man who hunted because he had nothing left to protect. Now he looked down at the child. He had someone, and someone had him. They made a plan. The pod could send one final burst signal, a flare into space. A call for help. The hunter knew someone, an old friend, a scavenger pilot who owed him more than a few favors. If she was still out there, she might come. If not, they were on their own. They activated the beacon. A loud pulse rippled through the trees, invisible but powerful. Not just a call for help, but also a beacon for enemies. Hours passed. No response. The woman grew quieter. The child closed his eyes and whispered something that made the fire flicker. Without wind. The hunter stood watch, gun ready. He knew something was wrong. Then, a voice answered. Not from the sky. From the communicator. Cracked, distorted, but human. Signal received. ETA, 2 hours. Hold your ground. He almost smiled. Almost. But before he could say anything, the pod screen blinked red. Incoming craft. Fast, not friendly. The sky lit up again, not falling stars. This time. Enemies. Bigger than before. They weren't bounty hunters now. They were command units. They found us. The woman said. Clear, simple. Final. The hunter checked his rifle. Then we don't run this time. They split up. The hunter led them away, through noise traps, terrain mines, and decoys. He was fast, smart, ruthless. But even he couldn't hold forever. Back at the pod, one enemy drone slipped through. It scanned the cave. Locked onto the child. But this time the child stood up. He didn't cry. He didn't hide. He raised both hands. Light poured out of his skin. Not fire, not energy. Something deeper. A pulse of memory. The drone froze midair and dropped like a stone. The woman fell to her knees, her eyes wide, not with fear, but awe. The child turned to her. Leave now, he said. It was the first word he spoke in her voice. And in English. The hunter returned just in time to hear it. Then, from the sky, a blast of light. A real ship this time, fast, ugly, human-made. His friend had come. The hatch opened. The ramp dropped. No time to argue. Get in. The woman and child entered first. The hunter stayed back, covering the trees. More drones came. The child looked out the hatch. His eyes locked with the forest. And everything around them. Every tree, every vine, suddenly moved. Roots pulled enemies into the ground. Branches slapped weapons from metal hands. The forest itself was listening to the boy. They escaped into the stars, but they didn't feel safe. Not yet, because what the woman feared the most hadn't arrived yet. Not the bounty hunters, not the commanders, but the one who created the hunt. The master behind it all. And now, he knew the child was awake. From the window of the human ship, the child stared into deep space. He didn't blink. He didn't smile. His glowing eyes reflected something far away. Something that was coming closer. The woman, his mother, stood beside him, her hand gently on his shoulder. Her face was calm, but her fingers trembled. The hunter stood across the room, cleaning his rifle. Not out of habit, but out of instinct. He knew this wasn't over. Not until he arrived, the one who had hunted the child before he was even born. The one who called himself the Collector. He wasn't after blood. He was after legacy. The child's ability to awaken life, to bend natural energy without machines. It terrified him. It didn't fit his system. It didn't obey his rules, and now, it was the last piece missing from his collection. The hunter's old friend, the pilot, shouted from the cockpit, "We've got incoming." One massive signature, bigger than anything I've ever seen. The ship rattled. Lights flickered. Something wasn't attacking. It was pulling them in, outside the ship. Space bent. Not exploded. Not cracked, bent. A massive vessel emerged, blacker than the void around it. No lights, no weapons visible. But it breathed power. At the center of it, a circular red eye opened, and from inside came a voice, smooth, cold, terribly calm. Return the child. You cannot run from the inevitable. The hunter stepped forward, rifle ready. He didn't speak, but the child did. He walked to the center of the ship, placed his hand on the floor, and whispered a word. One soft word. Enough. And the lights flickered. But not just on their ship. On the enemy ship, screens cracked. Systems glitched. The collector's voice warped. What is this? The child's power wasn't just defense. It was truth. And the truth was, he didn't want to destroy anything. He wanted to set it free. Flashback. The woman once held her baby in a broken lab. She had seen the scans. He wasn't a weapon. He was a mirror. He showed others what they truly were, and made machines remember they were never alive. Back in the present, the collector's ship began to shake. The AI that ran it began to crumble, not from outside force, but from the inside, because the child had entered its code. Not with hacking. With feeling. The hunter turned to the mother. He's doing this, she nodded. Without violence, she whispered. He's ending the fight without fighting. The collector screamed, not in fear, but in disbelief. His ship collapsed into itself. Silent. Final. No explosion. Just gone. And then quiet again. This time, not before war, but after it. Real silence. Later. On Earth, a small cabin stood at the edge of a forest. Inside, laughter. The child played with wooden toys carved by the hunter. The woman worked in the garden, humming softly. Her face no longer afraid. No longer hiding. The hunter sat on the porch, not guarding, not running. Just home. Not a hero, not a soldier. Just a man who found something to protect, a family he never expected, but one he would never give up, and far above. Among the stars. A new story waited to be told, but that is for another time.